Shalom, WJC family. It is time for our weekly Torah talk. This week in Shul, we'll read Parshat Korach, a really difficult story about rebellion in the desert when Korach and his followers rebel against Moshe and Aaron and their leadership, a challenge that results in a gory end for Korach and his followers. Some swallowed into the earth as punishment with their entire families, others zapped by a heavenly fire that seems to come as a rejection of their offering. And part of the troubling question in Korach is, what did Korach do that was so wrong? So Korach challenges Moshe's authority, and we're taught, as Moshe Rabbeinu, Moshe is our great leader, our first rabbi, that the very act of asking a question here and questioning Moshe's authority is in itself wrong. However, when we take a close look at what Korach actually says to Moses, it's something I think we would find fairly sympathetic. He comes to Moses and says, "Shame on you. Why do you put yourself above the rest of us? All the community is holy, all of them, and the Lord is in their midst. Why then do you raise yourselves above the Lord's congregation?" It seems a very democratic call, right? We agree with this idea. Why should someone be raised above everyone else? It pulls at our democratic values. Korach's idea, not only that, where did he get this idea of going to the person in power and challenging their power? Where does Korach get the idea, this Levite? Well, he gets it from the head Levite, right? Moses, his claim to fame is going to Pharaoh and saying, "Pharaoh, let my people go. What puts you on top of all of us?" But there's a difference, right? A fundamental difference. What Korach seems to miss is that there's a difference between understanding that every person has equal value and thinking that every person can do the same job. Pharaoh's big flaw was that Pharaoh failed to see the value in each and every person. Moses doesn't have that problem. Moses does appreciate. In fact, we read about Moses as the great shepherd, the one who cared about each and every one of his flock when they were sheep, who would go chasing after a lost sheep, and if the sheep was hurt, would carry the sheep back, understanding the value, and then that was Moshe's training, the Midrash says, for how he cared and led the Jewish people, caring for each and every individual and putting their safety and their needs before even his own. So Moshe gets that, but Moshe also gets that every person can't have the same job, that God has individualized roles for every person. And every one of those roles is valuable. Korach seems to miss this idea. Korach says, what makes you special to be leader and me not? And the answer is Moshe has special skills that makes him to be leader. And Korach should have his own tafkid, his own role given to him by God as well. Being of equal value as a human being does not mean that you are set for the same roles as everybody else. That is part of the beauty of God's diversity. And diversity is a value in Judaism, seeing the value in everyone because they are different, because they have different skills. Rabbi Brad Artson brings a beautiful midrash to illustrate this point. He says that in Bamidbar Rabbah, it says that God divided light from darkness in order that it might be of service to the world, right? Why do we need the diversity of light and dark? Light needs to be called up because light has a special role in the world. And by the way, so does darkness. We think of light as the useful part, but dark is also important. There are all kinds of things that depend on darkness, even us, for our regular sleep cycles and the ability to rest. Similarly, the Midrash continues, just as God distinguished light from darkness in order that it might be of service to the world, so God made Israel distinct from other nations, right? A special role in the world. By the way, not better and not worse, right? Just different, a special role, better for certain things, probably not as good for others. And in the same manner distinguish Moses from Aaron. And in the same manner distinguish Aaron and Moses. Meaning that they had their special role. Aaron had a special role to be the high priest because that's who he was. It was who he was meant to be. It was the skills that God gave him. Moses was meant to be prophet and leader because those were his special skills. Those were the roles that God gave him. Not better than anybody else, not more valuable than anybody else, just with a different role. As our rabbis teach us, a head is very important. It has to make decisions, it has to do things, but a head without a body is useless. Inherently, the head is not more valuable than the foot. Maybe so. You say you could lose a foot and still live. If you lose your head, sorry. However, if the head decides we want to go someplace and there's no feet and legs, that's a real challenge. Not impossible, right? All kinds of people who don't have legs manage to get around, but it's a new, different kind of challenge. Korach seems to miss the idea that diversity is beautiful, that everybody doesn't have the same role. And by the way, that leadership is necessary, and great leadership is necessary. I think that's a popular conversation going on in our culture now. Right? Is what is the role of leadership in a time of pandemic and in a time of racial unrest and inequality? What's the role of leadership? We need great leaders at times like this. So too in the desert, they needed leaders like Moshe, but Korach misses it. Korach misses the boat and says, hey, I'm just as valuable as you, and therefore I should have the exact same role as you. And that is not something Judaism believes. Judaism does believe that there are people set out for special tasks. Some people perhaps to be great leaders, other people to follow, but be great scientists or great doctors, healers of people, feeders of people, great pursuers of justice, great protectors of people. All of these roles are essential and need to be appreciated and celebrated. Korach's rebellion misses this idea. In Judaism, I want to close with a few blessings that we have that seem to celebrate diversity, celebrate understanding that every person has the potential to be a great leader, but not everybody is going to be a great leader. Every person has the potential to be great at all kinds of different things, but ultimately not everybody has the talent or the skills or the discipline or the interest in being great at everything. And that's okay. It wouldn't be okay if we said someone is not, can't be that thing because of who they are. We start with the same value. We start with the same, that of course, equality is essential in value, but diversity is also essential for us to be successful. And so how does Judaism celebrate that? So there's some beautiful blessings that we have. One goes, they all start, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, blessed are you, Lord our God, sovereign of the universe. There's one for when you see an unusual person or unusual creature. Eloheinu melech haolam, mishaneh habriot, right? Who makes different creatures. You have a blessing celebrating God simply for making creatures different and diverse, even the same kind of creature, even a person who is different. We say, God, this is beautiful that you can make different kinds of people. There's a blessing on seeing beauty. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shekacha lo ba'olamo. Right? Blessed are you, Lord God, who makes something like this in the world. Exceptional in its beauty. And when we see a huge gathering of people, there's a blessing, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, chacham harazim, who can know secrets, who can create all these different kinds of people and understand each of their secrets, their secret value, their secret ideas, what makes each of them special, different, and yet the same because each of them is special, each of them with its own role and its own tafkid. As we move into this Shabbat and this difficult story of Korach, we need to hold on to both sides of this equation. We need to celebrate both the light and the dark, right? We need to celebrate that all of us are the same in value and potential and equality, and that we each have a role to play in this beautiful world. And also celebrate the idea that each of those roles is different, and that that's a beautiful thing, and that diversity is good. We need to celebrate what makes us the same and celebrate what makes us different. And thus we can be a follower of Moshe and a follower of the Torah and not fall into the trap that is laid for Korach and by Korach. Shabbat Shalom.